Hello, it's Nicole, and welcome back. The summertime in the United States is filled with lots of celebrations and barbecues, and of course, hot summer days lead to hot summer nights where you can always find a wonderful display of fireworks. In this video, I'm going to pair a brand new sketch with this month's Inspiration Challenge, which of course features fireworks and a wonderful color palette to go along with it. Welcome to Sketch Starters with Nicole. As you can see, I've got our Inspiration Challenge up here. So we've got some amazing fireworks along with a great color palette that I'm going to interpret in two different ways. And then we've also got a brand new sketch. Now this looks kind of funky, but I promise you that you're going to understand it once you see the projects that I create. For my first project, I'm going to start off with a watercolor wash, and I've chosen the colors Rose Quartz, Amethyst, and Aquamarine from the Metallic Watercolors pan set to create a beautiful background wash. I'm starting off with some Ultra New watercolor cardstock, and this is the 100% cotton cardstock, and I'm going to do the top here in Aquamarine. I thought maybe I would do just a panel, but I'm going to go from edge to edge instead of leaving a little bit of white on the sides. So I will add a little bit of aquamarine at the top, and I'm going to actually blend the rose quartz into that. Now, I know you might be a little concerned because pink and green is really hard to blend, but I assure you that aquamarine and rose quartz metallic inks are going to blend together perfectly. I'll go ahead and dip into the amethyst color to add in the bottom layer, and I'll start from the bottom in the clean white area and then blend that up into the rose quartz. This is a much easier blend, and the two of these colors really work well together and create a nice seamless transition between the two shades. Once the panel's dry, it looks really beautiful. It has a really nice gradation between the three colors, and I just want to add some spatter to the background. And I decided to go with the aquamarine to really pull that green all the way through. With the panel dry, I'm going to go ahead and start adding in some of the other elements. So for the circular element, that double circle, I decided I was going to use spheres and spirals. And as you can see here, there's a beautiful finish on our background piece. And I thought I would do some faux watercoloring with the stamp. So I went ahead and added in the gold pearl color onto the stamp and misted it with a little bit of water, and I'm going to go ahead and put that right onto the card. I do hold on to it for a second here, so that way it gets good contact and you can see the detail from the spirals. Unfortunately, after I finished it, I wasn't really excited about the clarity of the spiral, and I thought maybe it could be even more dynamic. So I decided to bring in my gold pigment ink and heat emboss this in gold. To finish the center element, so this would be like the inside circle, I wanted to use one of the spheres. So I pulled out a piece of cardstock from the new purple gradient cardstock pack, and I thought, well, I was going to do this in black. After I had it stamped though, I wasn't quite sure that I wanted that big of a contrast. So because it was a pigment ink, I knew that I would be able to heat emboss it. So I heat embossed it in gold, and it worked out great. So as you can see here, there's that die cut sphere done up in the gold embossing, and I'm actually going to double emboss using the thanks stamp from this same stamp set. So I'm going to go ahead and align it here on my MISTI very carefully. It's really important to get this one lined up because there are those horizontal lines going across from the sphere shape. So I was extra careful with that. And I'm going to lay down a lot of anti-static powder because I am doing this double embossing technique. So I've inked up the sentiment in the obsidian black, and I am going to emboss it in black this time. I want to make sure that I get really good coverage, so I'm not hesitant to stamp this like 3 times. And once I feel like I've got really great coverage, and I think that looks good, I can go ahead and get it in some black embossing powder and heat it up. So here's the results. It's double embossed and it looks fantastic. If you've never tried double embossing, I recommend you give it a try. So I'll go ahead and finish up this card by adding the background panel to the card base. As you can see with that gold embossing on there, it really does stand out quite a bit. It really takes this whole project to another level because there's all of that shimmeriness in the background piece, and then there's the shimmeriness from the embossing powder, and then there's going to be shimmeriness and shininess from the little center circle that we're going to add into this. So once the background is on the card base, I can go ahead and add in my center sphere, and I'm going to pop this up on some foam adhesive. And I'm never stingy with my foam adhesive. I make sure that it covers quite a bit of the back, and that makes sure that it is nice and firm when I put it on the card, and it doesn't feel flimsy like you could just punch your finger through it. So I'll go ahead and line that right up in the center, making sure that the sentiment and those horizontal lines are nice and perfectly aligned. So the last thing I need to do for this first card is to add in some extra bling, as if it weren't blingy enough, but you know, it's fireworks, right? So I'm putting on some satin gold sequins in a nice tight triangle pattern, 2 on one side and 1 on the other, and that really helps to frame out our gold starburst in the center. And once those are down, they just need a few minutes to dry, and this card is complete. Are you enjoying this video? Then how about giving it a thumbs up? I'd really appreciate it. For my second project, I wanted to do some ink blending. So for the inspiration colors, I picked Sweet Leaf, Rubellite, and Hydrangea. I'm really inking up my blending brushes with color because I want these to be super, super saturated. And these are fairly light colors. So I'm starting with the Sweet Leaf, just like I started with the aquamarine on the previous project. I'd like to get a nice layer of this green down so that way I can blend that Rubellite up into it. When I move into the Rubellite, I'm not going to start right up against the Sweet Leaf. I want to start on a part of the cardstock that is still white. So I will go ahead and go right below the Sweet Leaf and get some ink across. And it looks like I really need to re-ink my Rubellite because I'm really dipping into it a lot. But I do want a saturated color. So once I have it on there fairly thick, I'm going to go ahead and start moving up into the Sweet Leaf. And you can see that that color shift is starting to happen. It's going to continue to shift as it dries, but really the Sweet Leaf and the Rubellite do blend quite well together. They make kind of like a purplishy blue color, and it looks really nice. So again, I will move into the purple color, which for this one I've chosen Hydrangea, and I'll start at the bottom, again, starting with the clean white area and then blending up into the Rubellite. Of course, Rubellite and Hydrangea blend wonderfully together. Once I have the panel blended, I'll go ahead and cut it down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 for my card base. I'm so excited about this next element. I've been wanting to get the mid-century frame die forever, but it is always on back order. So now that I have it in my hot little hands, of course, I'm going to use it. I've got some gold mirror cardstock that I am applying the double-sided adhesive sheets to. Now, I always cut my adhesive sheets slightly smaller so I don't have any overhang and I don't get any adhesive on the front of my piece, which is really important with the mirror gloss shine of this cardstock. So I'm going to go ahead and die cut that and it'll be ready to go on my card. So now I've got my background cut down and put on the card base, and with it dry, doesn't it just look absolutely beautiful? The blend is gorgeous and I really encourage you to give it a try. Think outside the box with some of your blends and you might be really surprised with what you get. I'm going to go ahead and add some gold spatter here. This is the Antique Gold Ink Spray, and it's going to add just that little bit of extra sparkle to this project. Now that it's dry, I'll go ahead and add in my mid-century frame. And I need to be careful pulling this off because these are tiny pieces and it did go through with the double-sided adhesive on the back. So just be careful when you're pulling it out so that way you don't grab any of the spokes that are supposed to actually be attached to the circle. As you can see, there's just a little bit of difficulty there, but once I get it out, I don't have any problems. And I do have to poke out some of those other little pieces, but it doesn't take me too long to get to just having the frame ready to go. So once I have everything poked out, I can go ahead and add this to my card. And when you look at this sketch, you'll notice that the circle is slightly higher than the center. And that's because it gives this a better balance. If you tried to put it right in the center of the card, it might feel a little bottom heavy, believe it or not. It's better to have a card feel a little top heavy. So that way, when it is standing up, it doesn't feel like it's going to fall over kind of funky. So for my sentiment, I wanted this to be a fun birthday card. I thought I would do some die cutting with the Linear Pathway Alpha die set, and these are the background dies, so they're solid and they're a really nice size. I'm cutting them out of the Cherry Blossom Gradient cardstock pack, and I also pulled out a piece of Rubelite cardstock from that same pack to do the sentiment in. So it's going to say HBD, it's time to party. So, happy birthday. But once I had those dies cut out, I realized that they were just too small for this project. And when I wanted to put the sentiment across them, they just really weren't working. So I pulled out the Caps Bold Alphabet die and went for a totally different color, navy blue, and pulled out just the H and the B. So it's going to be happy birthday, it's time to party. That's how you would actually read it. So I'll put the HB in place and then the it's time to party across it. And that's going to look really, really nice. To get the H and B looking nice and centered, I pulled out my T-square because I was really having problems making sure that they were square across the card. And this really, really helps. This is a nice little tool to have in your toolkit to help make sure that you get things aligned and looking nice and square across your cards. So once I get the H in place and bring it in close enough to the center, then I can figure out where the B needs to go, add some glue to the back of it, and get it right down in place. The T-square really does save me a lot of heartache in the end because there's nothing worse than having pieces glued down and then realizing that everything is off kilter. So once I've figured out where the rest of the sentiment's going to go, I go ahead and snip off any excess cardstock and place it down one last time before I glue it down permanently. I really love this card. I'm not sure who it's going to yet, but it really is starting to shape up and look fabulous here. Of course, I thought I needed to add a little bit more bling, so I pulled in those satin gold sequins again, and I'll put them in the same pattern that I did in the first card. So 2 up on the right, so I use the largest and the smallest, which sometimes tweezers really help to get that out in place. And then on the lower right, I'll go ahead and put one of the medium size. Once I've got them glued down, this card will be complete, and we'll have 2 fabulous projects with this sketch and the inspiration challenge. I hope both of these projects inspired you to get out your inks and play around and come up with wonderful color combos that you can blend together. Of course, if you're following along with the inspiration challenges at Altenew, you always have fun color combos to try out. And if you're feeling especially stumped, you can always pair it with a great sketch and come up with a fabulous project in no time. Don't forget that when you share your projects on social media, we'd love for you to tag us at Altenew LLC and at Pixel Mavens Retreat. We'd just love to see what you're creating from all of this inspiration. I'll be back soon with another sketch, but until next time, happy crafting.
Hello crafters, Jen here. For more tips, techniques, tutorials, and to discover which paper crafting products are right for you, subscribe to Altenew's YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Thanks for watching.